Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to this weekend edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. International rights group Human Rights Watch describes the trial and sentencing to death of persons found guilty of involvement in the Kumba school massacre as a sham. The organization decries the sentencing to death of the persons as unlawful and condemns the trial of civilians in military courts in violation of international laws. And lawyers condemn the non-respect of the law in the habeas corpus case application filed by lawyers who are demanding for the freedom of the 25-year-old pregnant woman arrested and detained in the Boya Central Prison. Those were top. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the newscast on Equinoxe television. We begin with this information concerning the pregnant woman arrested and detained in the Boya Central Prison, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, in connection to the Anglophone crisis and a relationship she said to have had with a leading separatist or non-state armed group fighter, General No Pity. And the pregnant woman has been in detention for more than 3 weeks or close to 3 weeks now, and the habeas corpus application filed by 12 lawyers fighting for her release is still pending before the Boya High Court. Today, the court failed to respect the law as far as the habeas corpus is concerned, according to the lawyer, some of the lawyers.
I want to congratulate Barrister Edward Nyonga for his courage and determination in ensuring that justice is done, or in seeking justice for Madame Antoinette. Today was for the hearing of the habeas corpus, and there were 6 lawyers. The 3 of us are present here, led by myself, to argue that the arrest of Madame Antoinette was an illegal act and to order for her immediate release. Today, the matter is still sub judice, so there's a limitation as to what we can say. But today, we, the counsel for the applicant, we insisted that we cannot be hearing a matter when the Madame Antoinette is not produced. We don't understand the reason why it is so difficult for the Madame Antoinette to be produced, because the law is very clear. The law regulating habeas corpus is very clear that for us to proceed with the habeas corpus proceeding, the lady who has allegedly been illegally detained should be produced. We made the application. The court ruled on it, saying that they can proceed only to hear the preliminary objection that was raised. I can talk on that one because it has been decided by the court, so it's not sub judice. The matter has been adjourned to the 26th, and we hope that the High Court of Fako will do justice to an 8 months pregnant lady and release her from detention or declaring her arrest illegal.
And all of them raise the issue that the first thing that should be determined by this court is the orders of the court for the appearance of Madame Antoinette. We don't know whether she's alive. So we want her to appear in court so that we should know whether her arrest and detention was lawful or not. They brought the state to answer on the preliminary objection, and a date was taken for the 26th for us to file our reply to the objection that was raised by the legal department.
We hope that on that 26th she will be produced. If she's not produced, we will advise ourselves further whether to let the state handle their matter or we proceed on the altar of justice.
Human Rights Watch describes the trial and sentencing to death of 4 persons found guilty of involvement in the 24th October 2020 Kumba School massacre as a sham. The organization condemns the trial of civilians in military courts in violation of international laws. Details with Equinoxe.
Human Rights Watch in its October 21 report qualifies as a sham trial for the Kumba School massacre, as 1 year on, no justice in military tribunal proceedings have been done, with the death sentence by firing squads slammed on 4 persons found guilty by the Boya military court. Human Rights Watch views this as unlawful under international human rights law. Ilaria Allegrosi, senior African researcher, says victims of the Kumba massacre have a right to expect an effective investigation and for those responsible to be brought to justice in a fair trial and not to be railroaded into a sham trial before a military tribunal with a predetermined outcome capped with the imposition of the death penalty. In the report, the rights group says defense lawyers talk of multiple procedural irregularities at the trial, including the inherent lack of independence and fairness of the process that civilians face before a military court, that the defense was not allowed to cross-examine witnesses, the proceedings were not translated into the pidgin English spoken by the defendants. Human Rights Watch hints the defense lawyers said the prosecution presented all its evidence in written statements without calling any witnesses to question on their statement. Trying civilians in military courts, Human Rights Watch says violates international law, and the court proceedings typically do not protect basic due process rights or satisfy requirements for independence and impartiality. Continuous imposition of the death penalty in Cameroon, according to Human Rights Watch, is clear indication that the country has not ratified the second optional protocol to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights on the abolition of death penalty. Ilaria Allegrosis states the military court should never have handled this case involving civilians. She asks if the authorities intend to deliver justice for this heinous crime against children. They need to bring a credible case before civilian courts and hold those responsible to account according to international fair trial standards.
After the ban on circulation of vehicles and motorbikes in Balinyonga Subdivision, Mezam Division, imposed by the senior division officer of the Mezam Division and a non-state armed group fighter was lifted, we went to the Bali Park to see what's happening there, to see how activities are resuming there, the Bali Park in the Bamenda. Smanjikan Gebre reports.
No train bullets shall come to us. Any
drivers at the Bali Equinoxe Park in Bamenda in meditation.
You make us to pass before the attack will happen, or you will make us to stand before the attack take place.
It is day 1 for these drivers after staying at home for 3 months due to a ban imposed on them by separatist fighters. After the prayers, songs of praise followed. Then picking up ballots for which driver to start loading. Minutes later, the entire park is flooded with luggages of passengers heading either to Bali or Equinoxe in the southwest region. The drivers are happy to resume their activities, but hoping that they won't suffer again for a long period. It shouldn't happen as it did again. 3 months was difficult for us. We are happy because we have started again. I ate only plantains all this while.
Now spaghetti. Yes. Now spaghetti. No, with chicken.
It was frustrating because my kids were sent away from school because they didn't pay their school fees. Now I'm sure things will change. As the normal activities of the park started, the drivers are begging for the controls mounted on the road to be reduced.
Sometimes they don't decide, they will not say to...
Sometimes they decide to change the amount at the control post. At times, it's 2,000 francs CFA. When we pay that times 2, how can our family cope and our kids also go to school?
When money when we pay for school begin, me come and see.
That was Manjikan Gabriel reporting there on the resumption of activities at the Bali Park in Bamenda, Northwest region of Cameroon. In the report coming up next, our Northwest correspondent Stella takes a look at the impact, the consequences of the close to 5-year-long armed conflict on children. She spoke to some of the students, displaced students, who have moved away from the area of residence in the Southwest region to seek refuge in the Northwest region, and she compiled this report.
In Anglophone Cameroon, children are paying an awful price for the conflicts between separatists called Ambazonia and government forces. Many have seen their peers and loved ones killed. Many more are simply abandoned. Joycelyn and Susan were respectively displaced from Wabane and Bechati in the Southwest region to Bamenda in the Northwest region in search of a future through education. Their communities, like many others in Anglophone Cameroon, have had no operational schools in the last 4 years. The impact is particularly regrettable on the girl child.
I've not been going to school for 4 years, so I lost my studies.
This crisis have really spoiled everything that I have worked hard for. My scholarship, everything about some of the things that I have wanted to be in the future. That's why, but I will not give up because I still have hope.
While in school, they are limited by poverty. School authorities say children come to school without books to write and cannot pay their fees.
I'm not having all the school need because my guardian is not having the money to provide all the school need for me.
A non-governmental organization is bridging the gap between the haves and the have-nots at the government bilingual high school Bamenda through their Back to School with Disadvantaged Children in Cameroon project.
The crisis we are going through have rendered a lot of families vulnerable. Many families here have received internally displaced persons and they are unable to actually cater for their needs. So that is why Sembu Foundation has come in, to support this category of persons by distributing them school materials like, school bags, books, pens, as well as, face masks.
With the influx of internally displaced persons, there is an urgent need for an upgrade in infrastructure in schools operating in Anglophone Cameroon.
Now we take you to the Senegal Maritime Division in the littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon, and we're going to show you the deplorable state of roads running across that administrative unit.
With series of potholes filled with rainy water, which is further worsening some parts of the road by making it muddy and slippery. This is the state of roads in the town of Edea, the Senegal Maritime Division of the littoral region. The deplorable state of road in this locality puts the life of the locals at risk. As they say, there are recurrent accidents on these roads. The roads are too bad that in trying to escape the potholes, the bikers sometimes collide with one another, which many a times leads to accidents. Learners face difficulties in getting to their school premises due to the bad roads. According to some of them, they often get to school very late because they try to escape the potholes on the way. When you take a bike, you are afraid it can fall. We sometimes get to school very late. The bad condition of the road has created a huge impact on the economic activities in this locality. Business persons say they find it difficult taking their products to the market because of the high cost of transportation. The state of the roads make it very difficult to carry our business products to this place. The bikers sometimes refuse to carry us or decide to increase the transport cost. The situation has further affected the livelihood of the people and the education. They therefore urge the government to intervene in the construction of roads in the town of Edea.
And the Minister of Transport of the Republic of Cameroon highlights the low rate of trade between African nations, and he was talking during the opening of the Ports Forum here in the country's economic capital, Douala. Details with Fomian Tonsanda.
Opening the African Ports Forum in Douala, Cameroon, Cameroon's Transport Minister Jean-Ernest Massinangale Bibe came back to the low level of trade among African countries. He regrets that trade among African countries stands at just 15%.
The African port sector has undergone tremendous revamping, especially with increasingly significant investments.
To boost intertrade in Africa at a time when the African Free Trade Zone is fast being implemented, experts say African ports should work on their fluidity. Ports within the African continent must also be ready to receive and easily manage containers from other African countries. Participants also highlighted the fact that the fast delivery of goods from the maritime zones across the region depends very much on the road network. We of the Central African Republic, for example, suffer a lot while transporting our goods on the Douala-Bangui and Kribi-Beluku corridors because of the multiple control posts and checkpoints along the road. This third edition of the African Ports Forum also focused on innovations and exchange of technology on the port sector across the continent.
And that's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Thank you for staying with us in Talking Points. Today we are receiving a national and continental youth leader, Kengafe Ernest. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Jonathan. I'm pleased to be here to discuss an issue affecting Cameroon youth and African youth as well. So I look forward to exchanging and giving words that can encourage young people out there.
And it has been noticed that young people are the center of most of the troubles that we have in the Republic of Cameroon. Most of the challenges, most of the difficulties at the level of employment, young people are the most affected. At the level of violence in the northwest, southwest regions, young people are the most affected. Young people are also very much involved in the atrocities, in the things happening there, both on the side of the non-state armed group fighters and the military. When you look at all of these, the young people are the center of all these troubles.
I think,
what do you think?
It's unfortunate that young people are the victims of all the poor leadership we have in Cameroon and Africa at large, in the sense that we have leaders in place that do not care what the future of young people should look like or looks like. We have leaders in place where young people are not featured in their agenda of development, and they only look at young people when it comes to making gains over them, in political gains over them. And Mr. Babila Jonathan, you have to understand that we are in an area where we have young people. In fact, a degree in Cameroon today is more of a first school in the past. The number of young people educated in Cameroon are alarming that it's very difficult for the government or a leadership system to manage educated young people the way they used to manage illiterate in the past. And that is why you find this challenge, and our leaders still yet to understand how this is going to affect the poor leadership, because when the young people, a young vibrant mind cannot be deceived into going into what will not see, he or she does not see the future out of it. And that is why you find it very difficult for young people to be deceived by politicians today. We plead on the leadership to make some reforms that will attract young people to see their future. As long as young people cannot see any future on this manner or type of leadership we have currently in place, there will always be crisis until they find something promising.
And I want us to look at this example. We have it, according to the information at our disposal, that the young man called General No Pity today in the Northwest region, who is a non-state armed fighter, was normally doing his business, selling yogurts, and then after that he couldn't do that business anymore because of some troubles that came up, and then he started riding a motorbike in Boya, and later on the former mayor said we don't want motorbikes to circulate in Boya anymore, and that is how he moved back to the Northwest region, and then later became a separatist. And then today there's a young woman who is in detention because of the links she had with him. What's your analysis of this?
I think looking at the way the government responds to young people in trying to prevent them from maybe becoming a crisis or causing crisis to the country, I don't think it's the right approach, because I remember in 2018 when this crisis began, I wrote a letter and forwarded it to the governor of Southwest, talking about what we can do at the primary stage as a health and safety officer trained in British University on how to manage risks and prevention of risks. I think it is we are taught that acute prevention is better than preventing risks is better than managing them. So I wrote this letter telling them that these young people who were doing something before the crisis come need to be reintegrated into the system. They need to create opportunity, business opportunity, agricultural opportunities for these young people to get in. As long as you are vulnerable, you can be used even by a fool. So that is what we propose. But unfortunately, the leadership in place do not listen to the young people. They don't take their understanding, they don't take their proposals into account, and that is why you keep seeing this repeating itself. For instance, if these young people, most of these young people I have spoken with, and they have given me their reason. What do you think I should do? I started a business, it's not running because of tax. I cannot go to Douala and buy, I cannot go to Bamenda and buy what I used to do before. What do you expect of me? And if in the midst of this, they are vulnerable. As I said, once you are vulnerable, even a fool can make use of you.
All right,
and that is the reason.
All right, you're part of the Africa Patriotic Youth Council movement, and that organization is planning to host a continental youth conference in Boya, notably with the aim of enhancing the solving of Africa's problems by Africa solutions.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think that African Patriotic Youth Council is a continental youth organization platform where we have 36 African countries on board, looking with major objective of bringing African solutions into using African solutions to resolve African problems. And this is what we've analyzed from the past 50 years. We've seen leadership in Africa failing young people. And for us to wait for another 50 years is of no importance. And that is why we say we as young people, as educated as we are today, we have most of us been in position of leadership and experts, in doctors in different domains in life, meaning that we are able to use that knowledge to create solutions to major problems affecting the continent. And that is why African Patriotic Youth Council is now planning, with other events we've earlier heard in Ghana, Nigeria, and other countries. We believe that coming to Cameroon now, it will be another step to encourage young people in Cameroon to believe in themselves and understanding that we as young people can use the knowledge we've gathered within the continent to bring out a solution to major problems affecting our country and the continent at large.
All right, thanks so much, Yengafe Ernest, national and continental youth leader. Thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Coming up live from Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé, La Presse, it's a dispute. And after that, Equinoxe. Stay with us.